Right, welcome everyone. Excited to have you here. Hey, Julie. Welcome everyone. Let me make sure I'm giving you all rights to be able to talk in here. Love to see the chat going. One sec. All right. Hopefully you can see the chat here. Now you can go ahead and let me know where you're joining in from. See Lori in here. Nancy. Seeing a lot of friends. Welcome everyone. All right. Julie, I owe you stuff. This is a good reminder for me. I owe you a title and description for ISTE. Welcome, Lynn. Wow, joining us from Australia. That's so awesome. Welcome in. Wow, Alex, you're joining us from China. Wow. Nancy, I didn't realize you're in DC. That's pretty cool. Very cool. Thank you. Jose coming in from California. Right. Davis Middle School. I used to work in the Davis School District there in an office at a middle school. All right. Hey, Lori. Welcome in, William from Peru. All right. Michelle coming in, Arizona State University. Wow, you guys are all over the place. We have a lot of different countries represented. Folks joining in from different states. Shelly coming in from Illinois. So glad to have you here today. I'm excited to share some really cool updates happening. I'm going to keep saying CoSpaces because that's going to be really hard to get out of my vocabulary. But I'm excited to share all the really cool things happening at Delightex and just to share them out with you so that you're ready to go, bring them right back into your classrooms. And feel free to, at any point, put anything in the chat. If I miss your question, I apologize. I'll try to keep an eye on that so that everybody has a chance to, participate. I certainly want to make sure you're getting what you want to get out of this webinar. And we have about an hour, so I'm going to go through things. I also want to give you a chance to play. So we'll go in, you'll join my class. And then as you join my class, then we can go in and play with some of these new features so you can see it firsthand. So, all right, with that said, let me go and get my slides going and get that shared out with you all. Right. Here we go. Okay, so we are going to be talking about quite a few things. There's a lot of new updates that came out. Full disclosure, I knew that these were coming out for a while now. I knew that the name was changing for a while now, and I couldn't say anything. So it was really hard because at FETC, for instance, I had to keep saying CoSpaces because I wasn't allowed to mention yet. At the last webinar, actually in the fall, I knew, but it was like, could not share anything yet. So it's really exciting to finally see these things get rolled out and to see the progress that they've made inside of Delightex and all the cool things that are now available to classrooms. The best part about all of this is that they heard feedback and they made changes. So that has been really exciting because I think really for us, we need to know, oh, let me go ahead and X out. That was strange. Let's try that again. There we go. Sorry about that. But we know that all the changes that have been made have been because of you coming in and sharing, really what is your interest for your students and how it can best be rolled out in a classroom situation. Because of course, CoSpaces started off being more of a game opportunity, a maker activity for students, not even for classrooms, just for kids. So to see how this has progressed into a classroom tool has been really cool to watch this happen in all of these years. So here we are today with a new brand and a lot of new features. So we're going to go through that together. Delightex really has been their name all along. I don't know if you guys have ever checked out kind of who CoSpaces is or was. and where they started. And every time I would go to tag them in LinkedIn, it was always like, oh, I can't tag CoSpaces because that's not going to pull up anything. I've been tagging Delightex for years, because that is their original base company, which was their name previous, or has been their name, the kind of the parent name of CoSpaces, if you will. So they didn't really go anything extreme unless you had no idea it was Delightex, right? So kind of cool to see that, this is what they're able to own and how they're able to expand because of that they couldn't under the CoSpaces name. So really cool. All right, so lots of new things, similar look in a lot of ways, but you're going to see that name popping up. New features that they've released, they did it all together instead of doing those separate, and what kind of things you're going to really love as a classroom teacher and how this could be applied. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. If you don't know me, I'm Jaime Donally. I think I've probably connected with many of you either through my website, at conferences, at different events, different webinars, whatever that might be, even in the previous CoSpaces community pages. Maybe we've connected in that way in the past, and it has been one of those tools that very, very, very early on, when I first started really going out and doing much of anything in presentations for ed tech, CoSpaces was one of those tools that I was like, this is going to hit home for so many classrooms. And they didn't even have the augmented reality side of it at the moment. But in the years of how they've released, what technologies have been rolled out, what has been an interest, where has the demand been, and all of those things that have been happening, CoSpaces has been one of those tools that I have just absolutely loved from the get-go. And so the company has been really cool to connect with throughout the years and see their evolution and them consistently making the best product. But, I share on augmented virtual reality for classrooms all the time. And there are a few products out there, Merge being another one that I love, Kai's Clan. So you'll see me kind of have these different, tools in my tool belt, if you will, that I've just loved throughout the years. So I'm really excited to go through CoSpaces tonight and talk to you, and just, looking from the grassroots, the very beginning to today and where we're at. But so I do have a website, if you have not been there, at arvrandedu.com. I would love for you to go and check out any of the other resources, including Delightex, listed in the site for many years. So you'll see a lot of tools in there that have been shared, the evolutions that they've experienced, as well as many other tools that might be of interest for you. All right, so looking at some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and some of the new features, and of course some of the obvious changes here. We're going to talk about some of the gallery changes, those enhancements that have been made, some of the features that teachers can now experience and leverage in the classroom. Some of the smaller things like license personalization for a little bit more organization when it comes to district-wide purchases and things of that sort. Some teacher collections, and then really what we're going to spend our significant amount of time on is some of the integrations that have been incorporated, specifically with AI. So super pumped about that, and we're going to spend some time just playing in those different integrations and features and tools, and then giving you a chance to go back and bring it back to your students and your classroom. Let me make sure I get my chat up just to watch that. So feel free. If you have any questions along the way, I will be watching that and keeping that open so that I can do that. Is it okay if I share the screen with my Y4 class? Yes. So Alex, I think you said you're coming in from Australia. We'd love to have your students join in. Please bring them in. We'd love to see it. And maybe your students have some suggestions on things they want to see, maybe in the gallery or maybe in the way that the tool functions. You might want to put that in the chat, because this webinar I will be sharing with Delightex and letting them know what kind of things you all want to see. And as they move forward, of course, they're always taking those things into account, which is super cool. All right. So CoSpaces is now Delightex. This has been a big change that has been demanded for various reasons. Some of the expansion that you're going to see, the name in the site. So it used to always be CoSpaces.io, right? Which, the location of where this is at in Germany makes sense. However, delightex.com is a lot easier for us to navigate to. That just makes it a little bit easier for people to participate and get to the correct site. I feel like I was always having to explain CoSpaces.io. So I'm happy to see that aspect of it. But then also just being able to have a name that's universal across their other products that they have makes a lot of sense. So how that all comes into play, we'll see. But yes, we now see that there is a new name for the site and everything has been rebranded. That is a big undertaking. If you've ever been part of a rebranding effort, new logo or anything like that, then that takes a lot of work. So they've been working in the background for quite some time. So that's why there was such a pause in releasing some of the features too. And some of the recent releases that we're seeing now that was kind of held until this time, which is pretty cool. So one of the things you're going to see is the gallery update. This is just an example here that I gave you. You can go up to now your search. This really wasn't a functioning search in the past, by the way. So when you would come up here and type in that search, it really wasn't giving you a whole lot of resources. But now when you type it in, you're going to see everything connected to, for instance, volcanoes. Or that filter now, what used to be just a few subjects and a couple different categories, I feel like now they have the full list of different subjects listed and different grade levels that you might want to then go to and explore. So with that being said, that is a great new update to their gallery, is really looking at how you can search for what you're really looking for in particular and have that all categorized easier and filtered down for you to find the right items in the gallery. All right, so one of the other things that make that gallery aspect important is the tagging. If you now share your spaces into make it public, your different projects, if you say, I want my project to be public for anybody to find now, you can actually add in up to 5 tags. So this is going to be important here because that's what's going to help people filter the things that they need to find in those different projects. This is just going to make that gallery even better. So that is really where you're going to want to put in the right tags, easily sort and find the things that you're looking for as well into your project. So those tags are going to be important for you to use in the future. This is something that apparently has been a request from teachers for quite some time. So I was talking to the product team. Let's see. It was right after FETC we got together and I was talking to them and saying, they were like, well, you can do this right now, but we've had a request like to be able to share different projects across the board within your organization. So my license is just a single license. I'm not in a district-wide license, site license. I am just my own individual license. However, if you have your school purchasing licenses for more than one teacher, this is where this really becomes important because if you are creating stuff and you want to share this with another teacher in another class, they now can take those collections if you save them as collections. So going from a project to now saving it as a collection, you can now share that out and make that when you go to the sharing feature, you can now share that out with other people to have access to. So that is super important for us to be able to not start from scratch, having to, recreate the wheel every single time. And I think that teachers will find this really beneficial and useful. And when you think about copying those projects, from class to class, but from teacher to teacher, and to be able to replicate the work that you've put into it to set the tone for an assignment, for instance, or getting your students started at the base place. I'm going to use Michael Dresik as an example here. So the school, his school up in New York was wanting to do a project inside of CoSpaces, and they wanted to do the periodic table. And so they did this periodic table that essentially was that first page, that first slide, um, at at the point of saying, here's the periodic table, but every single element is linked to a new page. And then the students owned the pages so that they can go in and create each space. And so, but all of them were tied back to that main homepage of where that periodic table was. So the student had to own that concept, explain that concept in 3D, and basically, be the content specialist, if you will, on that element. And so what was cool is you took this massive project like the periodic table and every student owning it, and now they're all going to see all their different projects in one spot. It was a really, really great idea. So good that at the time, CoSpaces said, hey, we actually want to make sure that we're using this for everybody. They added it to that gallery for anybody to use. So when you're thinking about the fact that the significant amount of time to be able to build something like that and connect all those pages and tie in all the links to the different pages, there is so much opportunity there, but you spend that much time, you don't want to have to recreate the wheel every time. And I just think that's an example of being able to tie it back to sharing with others in your organization. All right. So another small piece that I think can be helpful when you're talking about, your administrator that is trying to manage these different licenses. It's nice to be able to name them, easier to understand who they are and where to find them and how many licenses they have, how many seats do they have for students, and all of those aspects. And so naming it was a request clearly from school districts to help manage their CoSpaces. And guess what? They did it. So now you can rename it. Mine is named AR, VR, and EDU, but you really could change that license plan name to whatever you want. All right, now we're getting into the two top things that I am so excited to share with everybody. So this first piece, Delightex made a integration with Skybox AI, used to be called Blockade Labs. So this was a really awesome tool that I was essentially going on the outside and then integrating it in manually within CoSpaces at the time. But now Delightex said, hey, we have this integration built in for you. So I'm going to show you a little bit about that. I want you to have a chance to go in and create this too. But as you're going in this, you are able then to see, I'm going to turn off our sound here, that 360 image that you can go into it, and you can go into your environment, choose, and I'm just going to pause this here because this is probably something not as obvious. Down at the bottom, I can choose create AI 360 image. So instead of editing your environments down at the bottom, you're going to choose a button that says create AI 360 image. And once you select that option, then you're going to write your prompt, whatever your AI prompt is. I just wrote techno future with flying vehicle. So there we go. I basically created it from there. I can, choose what style I wanted for my 360 image, let it build. And then of course, this is much faster. I kind of shorten the time that it's going to take. So when you do this right now, you're going to notice that it's going to take you a little bit longer. But I shorten the time just so you can get an idea. There is my 360 image that was built for me. It appears now in CoSpaces. So again, previously I would have to go to Blockade Labs. I would create my 360 image. I would download that image, which now costs money inside of Skybox AI. But you now have to pay for that to download. You'd have to be a subscriber. Whereas now inside of CoSpaces, you have the option. Now, even if you're a free user, you actually have access to this feature right now. So they're going to eventually make this just specifically for pros. So this will be something you'll want to check out, whatever your license is. So I then added an object from, the object library. And then I adjusted, my vehicle that I had going on right there and added a little bit of code using code blocks. So there's my vehicle, there's my scene. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different too. I'm going to take a transparent item in here, and then I'm actually going to mask it. So I'm going to make that masking feature something that it just kind of disappears, but everything behind that masked object, it doesn't show. So I can still kind of see my car right now. So I'm actually going to make my car go a little bit farther. And then I'm going to watch it, and then there you go. It's masked behind that object. So what's cool about this is that we are able to create those AI-driven 360 images, essentially wrapping inside the space. And then you're able to build and develop, given an illusion that things are layered inside of it. So that is the new Skybox AI. You can actually give a project. So this is important here. You can actually deliver that project to your students. Say, here's an assignment. You can use this feature, and you can do two of these per assignment. So if I didn't like the first one with the techno future with flying, vehicle, and I decided I didn't like that, I would be able to do it a second time, but only twice. So as a student coming into your classroom, participating, you have 2 chances per assignment. Now I can give multiple assignments, but I still only have 2 per assignment. Uh, so I, as a student, can't go into my own playground though and actually build and design this way. I actually have to have it through an assignment of a teacher. So the student can't go in independently. You as a teacher have to say, I'm giving you the right to use this feature, and this is how it's going to be done through this assignment. So just a little bit of context on how this feature functions. Because when I first started playing with it, I kind of started testing everything. And then I went back into the Delightex team and I said, all right, I have questions. What's our limit? I think as a teacher, I think I have 4,000. I don't know if that's forever, if that's just, for the month, if that's whatever that is, but it gave me a considerable amount to be able to work with. But as a student, which is going to be the important part for you all, as a student coming in, they're going to have it assigned to them. So helps us just set the tone for how those 360 environments look. The other feature we're going to be playing with that's going to be important is this Objaverse, and this is really cool. I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. This is really, really cool. These 3D objects that will be pulled in, these 3D models that are going to be populating for you. You may find at times you don't find the right object, or it doesn't populate something that you're looking for, but there are so many different objects. And this has been a missing piece, I think, in CoSpaces previously for a long time, because they used to pull from Poly. So Google had a place where they stored 3D objects. People would create them, and then there was kind of like this massive library, and then it would pull in from that library, whereas it really hasn't been available to us in the past. And so this is the first time we're really getting 3D models that we can pull from. And so I kind of put it to the test. What can I find? And what I really, really like about this is some of these objects are actually animated. Not all of them, but sometimes I've pulled in objects and I'm able to animate one thing. Maybe it does one thing, it dances or it walks or whatever. But sometimes you can pull in 3D objects, and then you have the option when you try to go animate it that it will be animated. So that's pretty cool that we have access to that library and those tabs to be able to pull from. So this is how it works. You go into upload. When you go into upload, you're going to go to 3D models. This again used to pull from Poly. And when that went away, when Google, discontinued that service, we stopped having access to that. So to be able to now type in something, it takes a little while to pull from that, populates that. I can then pull in different objects, just like anything else. I'm going to adjust it. It might take it a few seconds if you notice that it's trying to download it at this time. So as it's downloading that object, then it populates it. It will bring in, the texture just takes it a second. But then that is in there, and then you're able to right click. If it does have animation to it, you can right click it and you choose animate, and then it will let you know, what is possible. Let's see. There we go. Animation here, and it does have an animation take on there. So there it is. That object then is animated. Again, not all of them are, but some are. And the ones that are, is pretty cool to use. And the ones that aren't, you can do some coding. Maybe you don't have the same kind of animation, but you might have movement for it, and adjustments for it that you can do inside of code as well, in the different coding that you're using, whether Python or HTML, or CoBlocks. So whatever you're doing with that, you have some options to do some animation with them. There we are. So you just essentially go into the upload feature, you go to 3D models, and then you start doing a search, and it'll pull in from those models to be able to use. All right. Yes, I see Rochelle's in here, and she said her students are loving creating this week. Best projects ever this week. So that says a lot, because I think many times we have been limited by what objects have been available to us. This has been a feature, by the way, that is it is AI driven actually. And it's an expansion to be able to expand different landscape objects in there. So I was just demoing that too, that you can continue to just pull out and expand those different landscaped objects to be able to, instead of having to copy paste, and just keep replicating maybe a landscape, now you can pretty much make it very much expansive with that. So there we go. You're using the free version, Shelly. Yep. And basically what you can do is you can, okay, so most of the features you're correct. The one feature is the 360, and that one is available to Pro and free version. So if you have that, you should be able to test that feature out. Now you're going to be joining me as a student tonight, so you'll get access to all of this to check out. But one other thing that you can always try is testing it out for free on the main website. So that was released at the last one that we talked about, but on the main website, you can actually test things out for free to see. And really that should give you a good idea. Is this something your students are wanting to use? Is this something you can find with different projects that are worth the investment for, making the purchase with Delightex? So those types of things that you're experiencing, right now as a free user, after you've run out with your trial, you can always go back in and test some of those features online just through the main website. All right, we're ready to jump in, and you're going to be joining me in my class as my student right now. So let me go ahead. Give me one sec. This might try to duplicate another window. Perfect. And I'm going to be joining in here in the background, but where you're going to go right now is to delightex.com. So you can go to delightex.com. And you're able then to get to that main page. All right. That main page, just for everybody still getting there, it's going to look like this. I'm going to walk you through step by step. That's what we're doing right now, just so you're aware. And then once you're there, up at the top right corner, you're going to choose sign up in that top right corner. I'm going to get you registered as a student. All right. And make sure to choose that you are a student. All right. Once you've chosen that you're a student, it's going to ask you for this code. And I am going to give us plenty of uses here. All right. And I'm going to make this class valid until October 1st. And I'm going to create it. All right, so our class code, I'm going to put it inside of our chat and I'll read it out loud, is V as in Victor, J as in Jamie, H as in Hebrew, 3, and B as in ball. All right, that's our class code. So that's what you're going to be putting in inside of this spot here. So when you get in, you're going to put in V as in Victor, J as in Jamie, H as in Hebrew, 3, and B as in ball, and then choose continue. All right, I'm already seeing students joining in. That's a good sign. All right. We have not, don't jump ahead quite yet. There's one piece that I want to make sure you don't jump ahead. The next page here, after you choose continue, don't use your authentication methods you would use maybe for school. So don't use, Google or Microsoft in this case, and I'll explain why here in a second. So Rochelle said her class made many scary farmers and lots of cats. That does not surprise me. Cats always show up. I can guarantee cats are going to show up tonight in the webinar. All right, I see Shelly in, Sabrina, TJ. So as some of you are joining in right now, make sure to hop in as my student because this will give you firsthand experience in seeing some of these things. I see Lori. All right. And if you've never been in here before, let me know in the chat. This will be kind of fun to see. I think most people in here probably have had some experience with CoSpaces, so Delightex shouldn't look much different for them. But it would be fun to see if anybody this is their first time joining in. So great. Okay, this is where we're at. Make sure to choose name, username, and password. Now, if you chose Google or Microsoft, that's okay. But I would say as a student, let's not waste any of these signups here that you would do as a teacher or that you would have for a different account. So let's do as a student, all you have to do is name, username, and password, and it can be completely disconnected from what you're going to be doing with Delightex in the future. Just for tonight, just for the class, and we don't have to worry about it again. So name, username, password's the easiest way to go. So if you're there, hopefully this is where you're going to get signed up. Let's go ahead and choose sign up once you're in. All right, I'm seeing some more folks joining us in. Michelle, Lisa, Sabrina, Swell. All right, JDJ. All right. Okay, I'm seeing many of you joining in now. That's perfect. Very cool. Okay. So once you've done that and you've selected name, username, and password, which could be very simple, then you're just going to close out where it says get the Delightex app. Okay. So you'll just close that out. Once you do that, you're going to be joining in, and I'm going to share my screen now. And I'm going to switch over to a new tab with sharing here with you. All right. I'm going to share a new tab with you. All right, so this is our class as of right now. If you don't see your name, you never join my class. So I'd love to see you in here though. This will give you a chance to test this out firsthand. And then I am now going to work on creating an assignment. So under my assignments right now, this is the class that I've created. I'm going to show you real quick what that looks like. I come over to my classes, I choose create class, and I give it any name. I choose create, and then I generate a class code. I can either pull in my classes, other students that I already have on my roll, and maybe that's where I start, and then I add other students, or I can generate a class code if they're brand new students joining me that aren't in a different class inside of Delightex. So I would just choose generate a class code, and that's the code that I gave you. Now, there are a couple things. You can always say this is always valid and it's unlimited for any number of uses, and then you would create. Or you can set those parameters like I did. I set it up for the end of October, or the beginning of October. So if people are in there playing, they'll have a chance to play until then. And then it generates that code. And then you can see that right now it's unlimited and always available. So then that class is created, my any name class. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this class because it was just for fun, just to show you what that looked like. But I'm going to come back over to my classes. Oops, delete forever. Yes, I understand. Yep, I won't be able to recover, delete forever. All right, there we go. So here is our webinar class. And I have no assignments currently, so I'm going to choose create an assignment. And I am, in this case, going to set it up as a 360 image. This is us first testing what it is like to use the AI generated 360 images inside of our environment. So I'm going to allow you to use a template if you want. No, I'm not going to need it in this case. Am I going to allow a 360 image creation? Oh, I said 4,000. I probably should have said 400 because clearly I don't have 4,000. So I'm going to choose yes, I'm going to allow that. So it is 2 images per assignment. And you have the option of resetting this limit, which is pretty cool. So you can enable or disable that feature as well. So under that integrations tab, you can go in there and check that out. I would say if you feel like your students won't be able to handle having something populated using this generative AI feature, then you probably want to uncheck that. But in this case, we're going to play, and I'm going to say, let's build and have fun with cats, probably. All right. So I'm going to say continue. And then I normally, the way I always start this, if you're doing this with students for the first time, I always do groups where everybody creates together. But in this case, I actually want you to generate and populate that 360 image. So because of that, I'm going to leave it as individual assignments instead of us coming in as a group, but I will be checking on you. So I'm going to see how many of you have completed the assignment. Your assignment right now is to actually go in and build your environment using the AI generated option. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to show you just one more time how to do that. When you open up your assignment, which you should see right now, everybody in the class should be able to see that. You're going to come down here, down to the bottom to environment, and then you're going to choose create AI 360 degree image. When you choose that, it's going to ask you for a prompt. So you're going to actually put in your prompt, and then you're going to come over here and choose a style. Maybe you want to choose a style here. What might be the ideal for you? And then you're going to choose create. Okay. So you're going to have a chance to be very specific, to be general, whatever you want. But remember, for this assignment, you can only populate 2. So because of that, be careful, think through it. Don't just be frivolous with creating this. Maybe you might want to be that first time, but that second time you're stuck with it. So choose wisely. All right, so that's how you're going to get started. Now, just by default, you can see that the environment that you're in right now, you can certainly go in and change it with your own 360 images. But I will say that this AI is really, really cool to have it available. So I'm going to go back. I can already see Mohammed. Let's see. It looks like we already got some going on. Maybe that was just the pointed to the bottom. All right. Lisa, let's see if anything's populating for you. Nope. Might be that just it was taking a second for it to load your environment. So I'm going to give you a second to work on that. I'm going to go over to my projects, by the way, while you are working on building that. And I'm just going to come over to the one that I created that I showed you in that video of that 360 image. So I actually did this inside of Delightex, but I did something very similar inside of CoSpaces, back when it was CoSpaces, with the 360 environment. You can actually see something right there that I brought in from Blockade Labs. So I built it in Blockade Labs and then brought it into this space inside of CoSpaces to build. Trying to see if I can find it here. Might not be populating, but this is clearly an example of that. I can go in, I can see this was built in there, and I have this here. Now, what you will find is when it was Blockade Labs, what you can do is type in some text or have things that you're using as drawings as the basis, and then it would find and link your somehow a connection back to the lines that you drew. I drew my name almost every time. So you could probably find the letters of my name all throughout here, and it shows you in Blockade Labs. So I would then download it and then populate it, bring it, upload it in here as an environment. So I would replace that and populate that new environment there. So that was before it was integrated. All right, so here we are with the integration. I'm able to populate, and then the key is then to start building inside the space. So I only used one object here, and I also did my masked object, the object that hid the car that went behind it. It hid every CoSpaces object behind it. That masking feature makes things super cool. It gives a lot of really cool illusions. Makes things look like you're sitting behind, like I did one with people, and it made it look like you couldn't see the lower part of their body because they were sitting behind a chair. Well, they weren't clearly sitting behind a chair because everything was flat, but it gave an illusion like it was, just like this vehicle. Is the vehicle really moving across space? No, this is just like a sphere. And when it got to this spot, then it gave an illusion like it went beyond and behind those buildings, when really it's just mass, meaning I can't see it any longer because now it's kind of disappeared behind that spot. All right, so that masking feature is pretty cool. If you're curious about how to mask something, you pull in an object, and oftentimes you're going to want to come over with just a blank object. And then you can right click it. Let's see. Pretty sure. How did my masking feature? Actually, I'm gonna have to go back and look at my own stuff, unless it's the specific object that I'm choosing. There it is. It's the object I chose. Okay, so that masking feature is right here. I'm gonna make that object much larger. So now anything that goes past it with CoSpaces, when you push play, then would, so if I brought an animal in, then anything behind that object disappears. So I would then give the illusion like it's gone behind that. So if there was a building there, maybe it went past the building. Maybe I take this and I make it look like it went behind the building, kind of thing. All right, so you get the point. All right, now I'm going to go back to your assignments. Let's go look and see what's going on here. I'm going to go back to my classes, and I'm going to go back to our webinar. Let's build assignments. All right, this first one looks like there might be, maybe. Did anybody get one yet? All right, put it in the chat. Let me know what's going on, y'all. Okay, still loading. Okay, Julie got a black screen. Could be that, did you even get the option, Julie, to be able to, I've got an environment. Okay, Tony, let's go over to your class or your assignments. There we go. We have a couple things. Oh, look at the, how cool is that? Wow. That is super cool. Now, have you already animated your object? Okay. So yes, our next step is to bring in some objects. So this looks like you probably did the upload feature. Yes, you did. All right. And 3D object, there it is. That's the object you brought in. So Tony's already figured this out, which is fantastic. But now let's all do that. If you don't have an environment, it's okay. You could just load one of their basic environments if you want to have just what it is right now. But I want you to practice this. And the way that you do this, and Tony, I hope it's okay. I'm going to load another object in here, but I'm going to choose upload down at the bottom, and I'm going to choose 3D models. Make sure you choose 3D models. And what else would I see out here? See if I'd see somebody. A lot of this is being pulled by Sketchfab. All right. Maybe we have people. There it is. A little bit smaller to give the illusion that it's farther away. All right, there we go. So if this was able to be used and animated, I would choose an animation. I would see that animation right there. This particular one doesn't have anything. Let's see. Trying to think of an animal that might. Y'all help me. What other animal could I be looking for? Koala? Oh, I don't even know how to spell koala. Help me in the chat. Oh, I see a rabbit. Wombat. Ooh, that's a good one. Camel. There you go. Okay. Let's see if this thing's animated. This one's taking a second to load. So while that's loading, I might try to, oh, there it goes. Okay. Can I animate that one? Animation's available. All right, so I'm gonna choose animation. There it is. So now, when I choose play, oh, looks like somebody's coding, Tony. Looks like somebody's coding. There we go. Where did that? Oh, look at that. Here he comes. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. That is so funny. That is hilarious. There we go. So how cool is that you can bring in these different objects now, some animated. Yeah. Oh man. So some animated, some aren't. You might have to do a little bit of coding. I'm sure that's what was going on here. Maybe not. Maybe not. Huh. Maybe not. No animation there. Yeah, something's going on. I just don't see it on my, oh, you use physics. Got it. Okay, came over here to physics. Bounciness, friction. That's so cool. I love it. All right, so there's things that could be happening all around here for them to come in and view and explore and learn. I would love to see the wheels turning on something like this, and maybe we have it moving, but you might want to also code it, and you can draw the direction you want movement to take place too. So if you have it going around a certain area, maybe you have it driving around a certain spot, so you can have that Jeep going from one spot to the other, which would be super cool. So lots of great stuff there. Using those 3D objects, I think, are ideal. I will absolutely be using 3D objects in the future. Now, I don't know if there's a limit. I did not ask, but I don't recall seeing that there's a limit for finding those objects from that object library, because you're not necessarily populating them with AI. But I think having the option of pulling from those library objects and having some of them animated make it really easy. Oftentimes I was going out to Sketchfab and then I would have to download and then try to upload in hopes that it was the right compatible. Even if I had the right file format, like an FBX, I would try to then pull it in, or GLTF, I would try to pull it in. It would say, nope, not the right file, even though it had the right format. So it was tricky which ones were acceptable and which ones weren't, which ones were animated, giving it even too large of a file and things of that sort. So being able to now search for those 3D objects makes this so much easier, so much better for our students. And you're not having to send them off to Sketchfab with things that aren't school related, right? 3D objects that you're going to find that aren't necessarily appropriate for school. So to have the right objects that are now filtered and available for students that you can use academically is a huge benefit. So love those two integrations. So many different things. I will tell you, on my website that I had mentioned before, I do have a blog about some of the things that were done. So here we are with those updates. You can see some of the features that we talked about today, like Skybox, Objaverse, pulling from those 3D models for your projects, and all of the different features and things that you might have. Plus, so many other ones. If you come over here and you were to type in CoSpaces, you would see all the other different blogs about CoSpaces and all the different features it has. So if you're interested in using it for various things, those things are certainly still going to be applicable. But again, so much more available. One thing I will say is I do have my latest newspaper out, so I'll stop sharing here. Let me grab one actually. This one. All right. I have a couple. Well, this is my older one, but I do have my latest one. So my latest newspaper, if you are interested in doing this, make sure to post about tonight, something new you learned. I'd love to see it. Tag me in it or put in hashtag ARVR and EDU, and I'd love to ship you out one. I will tell you, there are so many new things inside of here that I think you'll really enjoy. I have things organized with AI, with VR, with AR in here. And then even at the back end, you have a little fun project to be able to capture your own selfie. And then of course, Delightex, which at the moment was still CoSpaces, is back here and talking about some of the later features that were released at the end of last year. So really cool stuff. If you're interested in getting that, make sure to post and I will follow up with you about getting that shipped out to you, because I'd love to send you one if you don't already have one. So with that, I know we have about 7 more minutes. I'll give you a chance to play. You're welcome to ask questions if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you all so much. With everybody, yeah, Rochelle was like, say, if anybody wants to connect with Rochelle, she has her X account there, Instagram, Blue Sky, and all of those things for you to connect with her. Please feel free to put in your stuff as well if you want to get connected to the community. I love using hashtag ARVR and EDU to connect with other people that are excited about this technology and using them. Yes, I would love to get you one, Shelly. If you want to post or if you want to follow up with me, send me over a message and I'll be able to get your address that you want me to ship one out to. And thank you so much, Lori. I love that you joined tonight, and hopefully there's some new things that everybody got to learn and explore. And thank you so much for joining my class tonight. Yes. What happens to our current designs in CoSpaces? Lisa, great question. So CoSpaces, I still have all of my designs in there. Everything's still available. Nothing has changed. All my classes are still in there, even though the rebrand has happened. So your current license, my current license remained the same. As a matter of fact, I think my license is up for renewal in July. So there was no adjustment to my license at all. All I can do now is actually just change the name of my license plan just for my benefit. So just kind of the organization of it. But there have been no changes to my account, to my license plan that I had. All of those things were, absolutely still the same on my end. Yeah. So the website, as a matter of fact, great question, Lisa. If you go to cospaces.io, it's going to send you on a redirect over to delightex.com. So even if you go to the wrong spot because things are linked up, maybe you haven't linked up in your SSO, wherever that might be, it's still going to give you the right redirect to get over to delightex.com. So you'll still be able to access everything there. As a matter of fact, a lot of things look very similar as far as, what you would normally see. A couple little adjustments as far as categories and projects and collections and things of that sort and what those things are called. But essentially, you have the same functionality expanded now, and nothing went away. So I didn't lose anything in the process from my license to access to my login. All of the things all still remained the same for me. So really, really good question. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, Lisa. I would not want to lose any of those projects either. For sure, there should be zero interruptions to anybody. If anything, it's just new benefits. You just got a bunch of new benefits for a license that you paid for with a bunch of new features. So, yeah, absolutely. Great questions. All right. Yes. Mohammed was working off a mobile device. That is difficult. That is much different than a desktop for sure. So thank you so much again, everybody, for joining in tonight. Let me know if you have any other questions. Oh, Rochelle, I never saw your page on here, but I could have sworn that I was going to see cats. How did that not happen? That's strange. But with that being said, I appreciate everybody joining on your Tuesday evening. I know you got a lot on your plate at the end of the school year, but hopefully you learned something new. Make sure to share this with other people. I'm going to make this available through YouTube so other people can access it. I'll be sharing that out. And then if you have any questions, I'd love to follow up with you all. So thank you again. Appreciate everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.